All right. Transhumanism, Lecture 11. Apologies, I was sick last week, so we didn't have a class. Um, so I have a week's worth of AI news to show you now. I could take up the whole lecture with this, so much has happened, as usual. Um, so let's have a look at what's been going on in the world. OpenAI are still having their funding round. Uh, Amazon I told you before they were aiming for $100 billion. Amazon just put 50 billion in. Nvidia have put 30 billion in. SoftBank have put 30 billion in, so they're already at $110 billion. Their biggest investor, Microsoft, haven't put any money in yet. They're expected to put another 30 to 50 billion in there. And then they open it up to other companies. So they're expected to get somewhere around 200 to $300 billion of investment in this new funding round. Uh, you've got to remember the average GDP of a country is around 150 to $200 billion. So, yeah, insane amounts of money. Nvidia announced another chip. They've only just released that Ruby system we were talking about. They haven't built this yet, but they've announced that they're starting going into production of a new chip that will massively speed AI by another exponential jump than the last one they've just announced. So one comes out and they already announced the next one. Um, the World Mobile Congress is on at the moment in Barcelona. It's the biggest cell phone event in the world. Samsung have just announced not only is um, their AI systems embedded in their phones, they are now putting agentic AI into the phones, so the phones are capable of doing things. So they are now putting AI agents into their new cell phones, their Galaxy range. At the World Mobile Congress, even though this isn't really mobile, Samsung also announced that they're working on AI, agentic AI transforming global factories by 2030. So more automation in factories. Samsung are getting really involved in this as well. I'm afraid I have to jump quite fast through all these because there's so much of them. But you can go and look this stuff up yourself. Anthropic just released a new version of Claude Code, their software agent that writes software. It now works on mobile devices, uh, which the idea that you can write apps on your cell phone just by speaking to your cell phone is kind of crazy, but that's where we are. Gemini dropped a bunch of new things. I mentioned last week Gemini 3.1 came out, Google's Gemini AI system. Um, a few days later, they dropped Lyra 3, which is their new music generator, generates music. Um, have a play with this. It's absolutely phenomenal, unbelievable how it works. Google also introduced a new software system called Static, which is a sparse matrix framework delivering almost 1,000 times faster constrained decoding for LLM-based generative retrieval. That's big news, isn't it? You all know what that means. I know, it doesn't make sense, does it? What is generative retrieval? These are recommender systems. So Netflix, Spotify when they recommend songs, Amazon recommending products. Google AI have just introduced a framework that's 1,000 times faster than previous recommender systems. Perplexity, another one of the big boys in the AI system, in the AI ecosphere, uh, have assigned, have created a new AI agent that controls other AI agents. They just announced it this week. So, like an overlord kind of AI system that controls all your other agents that are doing work. So that came out this week. Killer Claw. Um, Remember, OpenClaw is the way that AI agents talk to each other. Um, this is a new system that's just come out that basically generates a new agent to do work for you in 60 seconds. Takes less than a minute to generate an agent automatically. Google also, this week, Google have dropped a lot of stuff this week. Google also dropped Opal. And this is about enterprise scale AI agents, not just small companies using these things, implementing AI agents across large multinational corporations. This new system, Opal, is released that this week as well. Qualcomm at the World Mobile Conference in Barcelona announced Wi-Fi 8. I'm having trouble connecting up to 5G, never mind 8. But this is quite incredible because it's an AI controlled Wi-Fi that they are talking again, exponential levels of performance in here. AI era performance, as they say here. This is cute. Again, at the World Mobile Conference, Lenovo, who usually make laptops, have released this little AI robot thing. It sits on your desk and you talk to it, and it does all the things the AI does. They're trying to make this kind of real world product that you can talk to. He says it looks like Wall-E, 90% cute, 10% creepy. But that was announced at the World Mobile Congress. My favorite thing from the World Mobile Congress, I haven't put in here because it's not AI, foldable game screens. Portable gaming platform that looks like any of the normal Nintendo or Steam Deck kind of thing, but the screen just flips up and you get a full screen. And you can move the controllers around the screen to have it as a horizontal one or a full screen. Very, very neat. Uh, it's still in concept mode yet, but very, and it was Lenovo introduced that as well. That's what reminded me. Um, Lots of news from China this week. DeepSeek are releasing a new AI model within the next week or two, they say, that will blow most of the existing Western models out of the water, which they did with DeepSeek, if you remember last year. And they release it free as well, open source, which is crazy. Read this article as well, which said, forget DeepSeek. There's 5 new AI models that are already coming out of China that are challenging all the Western ones. So there's another 5 just come out in the last 2 weeks. I haven't had time to look into all these yet, but again, this kind of drumbeat of how fast these things are releasing. Alibaba, which is China and the Far East's equivalent of Google, released Corpor, another agentic system to scale. Everyone's looking at scaling agentic stuff up to enterprise level at the moment. So Alibaba are doing that over in China as well, similar to Google are releasing that Opal system here in the West. Lots of articles on China's robots this week, especially after those New Year demonstrations. Everyone's talking about how China are winning. in the humanoid robot industry at the moment. OpenAI, if you remember, Sam Altman wanted to create a global AI kind of committee to oversee AI. Well, they've got OpenAI and Google and the China's cell phone manufacturer Huawei have joined as well. So they've got three big companies so far in this attempt to get a global kind of committee overseeing AI. Interesting, it's all companies and no governments. Uh, probably New York Times had a really fascinating article about how China's birth rate is dropping quite drastically at the moment, and um, people are finding romance with chatbots. Interestingly, it's all women. The majority of people who are falling in love with AI chatbots in China are female. Um, we'll be looking more at this kind of subject later on in this course or the next one. I always have a class or two on relationships with AI. But yeah, interesting from China. This came out this week. Well, this didn't come out this week. Recovery AI has been out for a while, but it got FDA approval this week. Hospitals now, after you have surgery, don't keep you in hospital, they send you home. And this is an AI system that looks after you when you get home and tells you what to do and how to look after yourself. It's an AI powered physician, basically, with virtual care assistants. So they got FDA approval for it. So this is starting to be used right now. Um, the Anthropic story, you may have seen this in the press. It's been a big news item this week, over the past week or two. If you remember, it all started with the Venezuela action by the US government that Anthropic said they weren't happy with how the US government used Claude, their AI system in that. And it started this kind of argument. The US government, AI Anthropic refused to take away their guardrails for the military. So President Trump announced that Anthropic was full of loony left idiots, and he was going to stop using Anthropic throughout the whole of the US government. Um, which is quite difficult because Anthropic's their main AI supplier. Um, Anthropic also did the same thing as OpenAI over the last 2 weeks. You remember OpenAI took the word safety out of their mission statement. So did Anthropic. After all um, their ethical concerns, they took the safety pledge away as well, which is weird. I think it's a legal thing, but who knows? OpenAI stepped in and have taken up the contracts that, because the Pentagon are throwing out Claude, OpenAI have stepped up. Sam Altman actually said in an interview yesterday, I know the optics look bad for us doing this, but the Pentagon deal was so sloppy, it's a great opportunity. He said the deal was such a mess that they stand to make a ton of money out of this. So that's why he did it. That's what he said in an interview yesterday, which is kind of crazy. So um, there's been a trend on social media to cancel ChatGPT because they're willing to go in with no ethical guardrails on this. But interestingly, Claude, on the day that the Pentagon threw out Anthropic, the Claude application became the #1 mobile app in the USA. Don't know if it's linked or not, but I assume it is. So we're seeing the use of AI in warfare. And again, we do a section on that when we start looking at transhumanist topics about AI. This came out a couple of days ago about the Ukraine are planning an AI-based air defense system that they want to install within the next 6 months. So AI will be their main AI air defense system will be all AI driven. And of course, we're currently at war with Iran, and the initial attacks were all planned by Claude, Anthropic's AI system, because the military haven't got rid of it yet. So the war planning, an AI system was determining which targets they would strike, America would strike in Iran, and passing that information onto AI controlled drones that were dropping the bombs. So the war is all AI being AI controlled. Of course, humans are involved, but there's no way humans could have done what they did in that. It speeds up bombing quicker than the speed of thought, as this article says. So we will be talking more about AI making decisions in uh, life or death decisions in war, for example. More and more about job losses again this week. Uh, More and more articles on this. Dario Mordai, again from Anthropic, saying software engineers will be extinct this year. There will be no more software engineers after this year. 2026, last year of the software. They're kind of not going to go away. They're going to change into something else because it's people who use AI to build software, not people who write software anymore. Block, one of the biggest financial technology companies in the world, is laying off 4,000 staff, claims it's AI is causing that. Do you know who that is? It's the CEO of Block. Do you know who he is? Yeah. He made Twitter. Yeah, it's Jack Dorsey who made Twitter. He now runs Block. Um, he sold it to Elon Musk. Interesting article on delivery jobs. As more and more autonomous delivery comes out in cities, people who had jobs as Grubhub and Uber drivers are now getting jobs looking after the robots. It's a weird thing. They're talking about all the people who were drivers in Los Angeles are now picking up jobs looking after the robots and going to collect them if they get stuck and things like that. They're getting a different kind of job, but they're still working in the same industry, but the job is changing. Fascinating article, this one. There's been a whole bunch of articles about people waking up to the fact that AI is actually going to change things. This one, are we at an AI precipice? Disruptions to the world of work, etc., and the transformation going off an AI cliff. There were tons of articles like this week. I just picked up a couple of them. AI has leveled up and there are no guardrails anymore. That's from Saturday. That one came out. Fortune magazine, the magazine for CEOs and company directors, had an article on Saturday as well. This week, the AI scare turned real for America. America hadn't realized isn't ready for what's coming. So, there's just Uh, there were maybe 40 or 50 articles like this week, just that people are starting to realize something big's happening. Although this is an interesting one. We're saying the risk of AI isn't deepfakes, it's daily whispers. And it's talking about all the new technology that people like Meta are building, the smart glasses, etc., that are going to be taking everything we say and do into AI and then giving us feedback on it. So the AI will be in a feedback loop with us as we do our things day to day with smart glasses. And so our AI becomes like a whisperer telling us what to do. Um, so yeah, again, from a HCI point of view, it's an interesting kind of dilemma. And now a few weird articles at the end. Not so much weird, but just odd ones that don't fall into another category. This one is really weird. They did a thought experiment about what society will be like in 2030, and they created kind of older versions of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Sam Altman, and had them sitting around talking about what will happen. It was all generated by AI. And the prediction was that humans would become batteries working in gyms to power AI. There's a Black Mirror episode about that, I think. So, it's just a weird article. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's a weird article about this thought experiment they did. Washington State, I told you all in the first class I have a microchip embedded in my hand that I got quite a few years ago. Um, Over in Sweden and Europe, there are some companies that insist their employees get chipped. And Washington State is currently putting legislation through its state legislature to ban forced employee microchips. So yeah, just an interesting transhumanism aspect to that. And Entrepreneur Magazine, there's an $8 trillion investment that venture capitalists can't ignore. $8 trillion. They're saying this sector in the next 20 years will be bigger than AI. What is it? Human longevity, life extension. This, like I say, all the Silicon Valley billionaires are pouring money into this as well at the moment. So, and people are predicting this space will be bigger than AI. So yeah, that's the articles. Well, some of the articles I read this week. I keep saying this, the world you live in. Any comments before we get started? Yeah.
Consciousness book. When I was like before I submitted it, I wanted to look up again like what's currently going on. And this weekend I saw that like the consciousness like conference that they have, it got canceled, and I was like, why did it get canceled? And I I couldn't really find anything. And then so I found like a link on Reddit why it was canceled. And they were kind of being like hush hush about it and kind of like making it seem like people didn't want to go type of thing, so that's why they canceled it. But it was actually Epstein was related to it, and
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah.
so I was very shocked because I was like, why are they so interested in consciousness? And then I just thought about like the purpose of this class.
Yeah.
And, like that's pretty crazy. So that related to the article.
Yeah. Uh, for those online, Alyssa's talking about the consciousness conference was cancelled this week, and no one's really talking about why, but many people think it's related to Epstein. But yeah, it's Yeah, there's repercussions from that everywhere, but I don't know. I haven't read about that, so I don't know. But yeah, um, there were a few other really interesting articles, but I actually kept those to one side for when we cover those topics. There were other things going on this week, but I kept some of those articles. These were just the more mainstream ones. Okay, it's yeah, as I said, all of that 1 week. All right. So what we're going to do, before we start, I just wanted to say I think I've graded all the Nietzsche ones. Have I graded all of them, or is there a few left? There might be a few left. I think I've graded all of them. Um, on the whole, they were really good. Um, I really appreciated reading them. The things I really liked were where you were giving your interpretations of what you thought about Nietzsche and how it impacted you. That was good. Um, and I even learnt a few things from some of you who did some deeper research. It was good. It was. I enjoyed reading them. All right. Uh, so next topic. We are moving on to AI, and we are going to talk about. Now I've lost my papers. Here we are. We are going to start by talking about the history of AI, and then we're going to talk about the history of AI, and then we're going to go through some definitions, which will allow us when we start doing the transhumanism stuff to talk. You'll know what you're talking about, hopefully. Um, if any of you are computer scientists and have taken AI classes, you'll probably know most of this, unfortunately, but the majority of you won't. So we've got to cover this. Um, there are two worksheets, number 5 and one called 5EC, an extra credit worksheet. I'm giving you some extra credit potential here. Um, the the worksheet number 5, there's no seminar or meeting with this one. We're going to do the first page in class, and the second page you have to do yourself kind of at home before you submit it. So it's the same worksheet for online and in-person students. Okay. The extra credit is actually because I'm going to be teaching you or giving you a whole list of definitions, you have to collect all the definitions on this worksheet. I understand that you'll maybe be copying them from ChatGPT or from the web. This is one where you can copy. It's just to put them all together. But what I want you to do is organize them. And just the very fact that you're copying these things and organizing them will hopefully help you remember. I don't expect you to learn them and write them down. I know you're going to copy and paste here, and that's for once, that is fine, yeah, on this worksheet. Okay. But I'm looking for you to organize them into groups and have, you know, and get them all together. So put everything together. So you need to probably be every time I give you a definition, you need to at least make a note to put it on here. Okay? If you're going to do the extra credit. All right. Everyone clear on that? All right. So let's get started with some AI history. So we've already talked about AI history in the very first class. We talked about most papers and websites on AI history always go back to early times and this kind of quest for humans to believe that inanimate objects were alive or to create replicas of humans. And again, this famous quote, AI began with an ancient wish to forge the gods. Famous quote on AI. Then we've got the kind of automata, so automata, where in the 15th century we started building mechanical devices that were coming alive. Then we come into Victorian times with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, things like that. So, but the history of AI. The seeds of AI were planted in ancient Greece, classical philosophers who attempted to describe the process of human thinking as the mechanical manipulation of symbols. This culminated in the 1940s of machines, early analog machines that manipulated symbols. The most famous, probably the first ever computer, was built by this guy, Alan Turing. He's a British mathematician and probably the world's first computer scientist. He's a personal hero of mine. He's most famous for decrypting, he ran the British cryptography unit during the Second World War at Bletchley Park. And he decrypted the German Enigma code. The Enigma code used on the U-boats changed every day, and it took human cryptographers almost a week to decrypt it. So by the time they decrypted it, it was useless. So he built this machine called the bomb, the first ever computer, really. It was an analog machine that could decrypt the code in a few hours. And this started people talking about the idea of building electronic brains. Alan Turing published this paper in 1950. The paper was called Computing Machinery and Intelligence. And you can see the very first line of the paper is, I propose the question, can machines think? So he published this in a philosophy journal because there were no computer science journals back then, but this was the first ever paper on artificial intelligence. There's a brilliant film. Have any of you seen it? The Imitation Game? It's great, isn't it? It's really good. About Alan Turing's life. It's fabulous. Stars Benedict Cumberbatch. It's Alan Turing. So, when I left England over about 25 years ago to go and live in Australia, I said to myself, where in the whole of England have I never been that I really want to visit? And that was Bletchley Park. I wanted to see where Alan Turing worked. So this is where I went before I left England. The one place I visited before I left. It's an old English stately home where he worked. So this is Alan Turing's paper. He said, I propose the question, can machines think? And so he said, we have to begin with definitions of the term machines and think. And he immediately said, these are almost impossible terms to define. So what he did, he came up with this thought experiment, which is known as the Turing test. We'll talk more about the Turing test when we start looking at how to test if computers are intelligent. So Alan Turing said, if Um, if I am speaking to a human and a computer at the same time, and I can't tell the difference between them, then the computer must have some measure of intelligence. Fair enough, it's a decent enough test, but even Turing said this test is very flawed. It's not really a good test. Because I could ask the computer, and this is what he wrote in this paper. He said, I could ask the computer, what is 573,283 divided by 21,974? And the computer could answer instantly. So I would know it isn't human, it's a computer. So the computer would have to not answer for 2 minutes and then give me a wrong answer, and I would believe it's human. So the computer would have to pretend to be stupid for me to believe it's human. So he knew the test wasn't a very good test, really, but we can see already we all live with machines now that can talk to us like humans, ChatGPT, etc. So, this Turing test has been passed. There used to be an annual prize given for chatbots the best one passing the Turing test. When these transformer models came out in 2017, they stopped doing it because we'd just got so far past it. So, so this was Turing's kind of this is where AI really started. Now, so so in 1955, 5 years after Turing's paper, this professor, John McCarthy, invented the term artificial intelligence. And he said, this is the science and engineering of making intelligent machines. And he invented this new programming language called Lisp, still used today a little bit, specifically for handling artificial intelligence type applications. And so in 1956, there was this famous conference, the Dartmouth Seminar, where all the people who created the field of AI in England turned up. And this is where AI started at this conference, really. And the people who were there became basically the giants of artificial intelligence. Marvin Minsky, Claude Shannon, John McCarthy, McCulloch, Alan Newell. These were the professors who really created the whole field of AI. Everything we have today came from this. At this conference, they predicted that a machine as intelligent as a human would exist within a generation. So within 30 or 40 years, by the 1980s, we would have a machine as intelligent as a human. And companies and governments gave them research grants to do this, millions of dollars, which was worth a lot more back in 1956. So tens, hundreds of millions of dollars to make this come true. Their predictions were a bit grandiose, really. They didn't get anywhere near this. They thought they would, but they didn't. Alan Newell said, within 10 years, a digital computer will be the world's chess champion. So by 1966, didn't happen till Deep Blue in the early 2000s. Isaac Asimov, the science fiction writer, was there. He said that machines will take over the routine functions of human muscle, while another will take over the functions of the mind. Guy called Thring said by the 1990s, we'll all have household robots doing everything for us. Skinner said that there'll be no more teachers or professors by the end of the century. And Arthur Samuel said that computers would learn language, converse and translate language all within 30 or 40 years, and they would make all of our music and write our books. So these people really believed that they were going to create something like a human within 30 or 40 years. They grossly underestimated the difficulty of this. So, but they did do a lot of really amazing things. These three guys, led by Alan Newell, created an AI system in the mid-50s and into the 60s. One of the very first AI programs was called a logic theorist. This was designed to calculate mathematical proofs. And it was based on the proofs from a famous mathematical textbook by Bertrand Russell and Alfred Whitehead. And it could recreate these proofs. But one of the proofs, it found a better proof than the mathematicians had found. So even in the 1950s, we suddenly had a thinking machine, a machine that was generating new knowledge that no one had had before. Yes, mathematical proofs, but still new knowledge. It knew more than its programmers and the mathematicians, the experts in this field. So let's have a look at a little video about that.
History of Artificial Intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not a new word and not a new technology for researchers. This technology is much older than you would imagine. Even there are the myths of mechanical men in ancient Greek and Egyptian myths.
Like I said,
following are some milestones in the history of AI, which defines the journey from the AI generation to till date development. Maturation of artificial intelligence, 1943 to 1952. Year 1943, the first work which is now recognized as AI, was done by Warren McCulloch and Walter Pitts in 1943. They proposed a model of artificial neurons. Year 1949, Donald Hebb demonstrated an updating rule for modifying the connection strength between neurons. His rule is now called Hebbian learning. Year 1950, the Alan Turing, who was an English mathematician and pioneered machine learning in 1950. Alan Turing publishes Computing Machinery and Intelligence, in which he proposed a test. The test can check the machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to human intelligence, called the Turing test. The birth of artificial intelligence, 1952 to 1956. Year 1955, and Alan Newell and Herbert A. Simon created the first artificial intelligence program, which was named as Logic Theorist. This program had proved 38 of 52 mathematics theorems, and find new and more elegant proofs for some theorems. Year 1956. The word artificial intelligence first adopted by American computer scientist John McCarthy at the Dartmouth Conference. For the first time, AI coined as an academic field. At that time, high-level computer languages.
All right. So that's the birth of AI. where it came from. Now, I've already shown you, we've already discussed some of this right at the start, that right from the beginning of AI, people were teaching AI systems to play games. So games, Checkers program was written in 1951, developed in the 50s, and this culminates in Deep Blue beating Kasparov in 1997 at chess. We've got the famous Mechanical Turk, which we talked about before, which had the guy inside it. And why do we teach computers to play games? Intelligent activity. They have a winning state, you know if you're successful, and structured rule sets. So, let's go back to the video. Interesting that this is talking about the COBOL language, high-level language. We were talking that Anthropic have just released that. Just last week, they released that program that rewrites COBOL.
Such as Fortran, Lisp, or COBOL were invented. And the enthusiasm for AI was very high at that time. The golden years early enthusiasm, 1956 to 1974. Year 1966, the researchers emphasized developing algorithms which can solve mathematical problems. Joseph Weizenbaum created the first chatbot in 1966, which was named as Eliza. Year 1972, the first intelligent humanoid robot was built in Japan, which was named as Wobbit-1. The first AI winter, 1974 to 1980. The duration between years 1974 to 1980 was the first AI winter duration.
So, these ideas of AI winters. Let's have a look. Let's finish this PowerPoint and then we'll carry on watching that. Showing them in the wrong order, really. But so, it talked about these mathematical algorithms that people developed, which basically were search algorithms. AI programs use the same algorithm. To win a game of chess or prove a theorem, they deducted, like they were searching a maze. Most chess machines still do this. They search all the possible moves, backtracking when they reach a dead end. So AI systems tend to use this and we still do. AI systems are still predominantly search systems. The paradigm is called reasoning by search. You're searching for an answer. And the new definition here, many problems are simply too big to solve. Chess is a good example. There are so many billions of possible moves, no computer can search every possible move. And we call this combinatorial explosion, that there are too many options to search. So we need an intelligent solution, a heuristic solution. So we use heuristics, the same rules of thumb. Tell a chess machine that it's not a good idea to let the opponent capture your queen, and that immediately blocks off a huge portion of the search. If you're going to lose your queen, you don't follow that search part of the tree. So heuristics, which we've discussed before. And they search through state spaces. This is an example of a game playing system, tic-tac-toe, going through, searching either down the trees or along the trees, breadth first or depth first. But the AI systems weren't just mathematical. They started using this to do more human activities. How do you decide a TV show to watch? How do you cook a meal? How do you play a video game? AI systems started applying this search methodology to more human problems. So think about building search graphs and think about heuristics, how you do something, everything you do. How do you decide what clothes to wear in the morning? And how would an AI system do that? It would do a search, checking what clothes are available and then following down a path until it chooses an outfit. So what this led to, especially in the 1960s and 70s, was a realization what we learned was not that we were building intelligent machines. We learned that chess isn't a very intelligent activity. It can be done. So we began to prove that many human tasks are algorithmic rather than proving that we have a machine that's intelligent. And this is what we've done all the way through the development of AI. Every time we build a machine that does something, we move the boundaries further and say, well, that's obviously not intelligent, and move the boundaries further to what we define as intelligent. We're constantly moving the tests. Many people believed that no computer would ever be able to beat someone at chess because it was a human activity. As soon as it beat people at chess, they decided it wasn't a very clever activity anymore. So this is what we've done throughout the history of AI, and we're still doing it today. Okay, let's watch the end of that video. Finish the history section. So I do want you to notice this thing about AI winters. I'm going to talk about those a bit more
which was named as Wobbit 1. The first AI winter, 1974 to 1980. The duration between years 1974 to 1980 was the first AI winter duration. AI winter refers to the time period where computer scientists dealt with a severe shortage of funding from government for AI researches. During AI winters, an interest of publicity on artificial intelligence was decreased. A boom of AI, 1980 to 1987. Year 1980, after AI winter duration, AI came back with expert system. Expert systems were programmed that emulate the decision-making ability of a human expert. In the year 1980, the first national conference of the American Association of Artificial Intelligence was held at Stanford University. The second AI winter, 1987 to 1993. The duration between the years 1987 to 1993 was the second AI winter duration. Again, investors and government stopped in funding for AI research, as due to high cost but not efficient result. The expert system such as XCON was very cost effective. The emergence of intelligent agents, 1993 to 2011. Year 1997, IBM Deep Blue beats world chess champion Garry Kasparov and became the first computer to beat a world chess champion. Year 2002, for the first time, AI entered the home in the form of Roomba, a vacuum cleaner.
All right. So we're seeing all these developments, but what we've seen is a period of high research, then a winter, a period of high research in AI, then a winter, and then where we are now. So I've got a little chart of that shows it a bit better. So back in the 50s and 60s, we have the first boom in AI, boom one, which is called GOFAI, GOFAI. Anyone know what that stands for? It stands for Good Old-Fashioned AI. That's what we call it now, GoFi. That's when they were doing all these search algorithms. They promised the Earth that they would build an artificial human within 30 years. It was obvious they weren't going to do that. All the funding dropped off. But then we had this second boom in what were called expert systems, technology like fuzzy logic expert systems. And there was another boom in research funding and building AI systems. And right at the end of the 1990s, right in the middle of the kind of early 1990s to the mid 1990s, that's when I did my PhD in AI. So I was on the tail end of the second boom, which is why I stopped doing AI, because funding was vanishing for AI and I moved to work in computer graphics. But then all of a sudden we'd start to hit the kind of around 2005 and the machine learning boom starts to pick up, and then we've got this exponential growth to where we are now. But people are still predicting there could, this technology bubble could burst and we'll have another AI winter. But none of these were failures. I mean, from the second boom, fuzzy logic is a branch of mathematics that was developed during the second boom. Every household appliance in your home has a fuzzy logic controller to optimize the power supply. So there were things that were, a lot of useful things came out of this that are still used every day. So there are more papers on AI history in there if you want to have a look. But, all right. So, any questions or comments about the history? So, what we're going to do now is talk about some definitions. A little bit dry, but you have to know what you're talking about. So, close down one of these. All right. So, come on. So, some definitions for you. Well, we're going to start by talking about artificial intelligence. But we have a problem. How can we define artificial intelligence until we define what intelligence is? A fundamental problem in AI is nobody knows what intelligence is. These philosophers, they never have any answers. What is consciousness? Don't know. What is intelligence? Don't know. So this is acute. It's a really big problem with AI. How can we tell a machine is intelligent if we can't determine that a human is intelligent? We don't have a proper definition of intelligence. We have some definitions, but that's what we're going to look at now. We're going to look at some definitions. So, we're going to start with worksheet number 1. Those of you watching this video online, do this as well. I want you all to fill in question 1. What do you think intelligence is? I expect you all to give me some kind of definition. Don't look anything up, just what you think it is. Just one line, nothing. And don't worry, there's no right or wrong answers here. Nobody knows. You all supposedly think you're intelligent. What is it that makes you intelligent? It's hard, isn't it? Don't worry, philosophers have been arguing about it for thousands of years, so it's not like you're going to solve it in a minute or two. Give me some ideas. There's no right or wrong answer, so it's not. Go on. The ability to take in information. What kind of information? Communication, emotional information, visual information, facts, all of them. Hmm? Good. Problem solving is a good one. That's part of it, definitely. But is it everything? Anything else? Someone have something else? Problem solving is good. You're all too scared to come up with something. Come on. Give me one more and then I'll leave you alone. I'll pick someone if you don't say it. Go on. The ability to reason through abstract and complex problems without assistance. Very good. Yeah, that's very good. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a seminal academic paper on machine intelligence. This is a very famous paper. It's by Shane Legg and Marcus Hunter, and it's still regarded as the best paper on defining artificial intelligence, machine intelligence. So the paper's called Universal Intelligence, a definition of machine intelligence. Let's just have a look at the abstract. First line, the fundamental problem in AI, this is the fundamental problem in AI, is that nobody knows what intelligence is. In this paper, we approach the problem in the following way. They start by looking at the way different people define intelligence and extract the essential features. And then they try to formalize those features so that we can have a measure of intelligence for machines. So, look at the contents. This paper is 43 pages long. The first 15 pages are trying to define what intelligence is. And there's a great quote there. Innumerable tests are available for measuring intelligence, but no one is quite certain what intelligence is, or even just what the tests are actually measuring. So what is intelligence? Look at this first paragraph. It's a concept that we use in our daily lives that seems to have a fairly concrete meaning. If someone gets an A on a calculus test, they're very intelligent. If your cat has learnt the word vet and hides when you say vet, it's intelligent. So we have an intuitive notion of what intelligence is. But if we dig deeper, it's really difficult to nail it down. Is it about learning quickly? Is it about knowledge, how much knowledge you have? Is it communication and the ability to use language? What about thinking and performing abstract reasoning, which some of you here came up with? How about creativity? Intelligence is a mixture of all those concepts, which are equally difficult to define. It's hard to define each of those individual concepts. So people have been arguing about this for years and years. how do we measure, and there's all sorts of scientific debates on this. The situation is not as bad as it's sometimes made out to be, because there is a correlation. If you perform IQ tests, the people with higher IQs are going to do better academically. So it's not as if we're measuring something that is related to ability. But this gets way more difficult when we come to talk about machines. So how do we develop a concept of intelligence that is applicable to all kinds of systems? We need to encompass the essence of human intelligence so that we can apply that to machines. So it can't just be one single definition, really. Now, what this paper goes into is it starts to discuss this idea of what we call natural intelligence, which is human intelligence. Now, so this paper goes through all the intelligence tests like IQ tests and all of the other ones that have been built. As they say here, an individual's IQ is always an indication of their cognitive performance relative to a larger group. So IQ does work as a measure, but we're not sure exactly of what. Then we have this concept of animals. How do we measure animal intelligence? Again, tough to measure. Is an animal intelligent, or is it just learning to press the right button to get a treat? So they continue talking about tests, and then where they get to is they talk about the theories of human intelligence, and then they give a list of definitions of human intelligence. So we're going to look at some of these theories and definitions of human intelligence. Now, what I want you to do, this is question 2. As we go through this, I'm going to show you some of these theories in PowerPoint. We're going to look at some of the, we're going to look at some of the definitions, watch a couple of videos, and then look at some of these definitions. All right. So before we start looking at the definitions, all right. So the fundamental thing is AI is impossible to define, whether you're talking about an animal or someone who does well on a mathematics test. But look at this list. We're already beginning to get some kind of themes here. Remember, question 2, you're filling in themes. Learn quickly. Is it about knowledge? Is it communication and language? Is it about reasoning or problem solving? Or is it creativity? So it's a mixture of content. We know that IQ tests work. Now, so there are different theories that propose different ways to look at this. One of the first theories that's still very popular is a guy called Thurston. He came up with a multiple factors theory. So he came up with 7 abilities that humans have that all contribute to intelligence. Verbal comprehension, we understand what people are saying. Word fluency, we can read, we can speak and write. The ability to handle numbers, to count, etc. Spatial visualization, to understand the world around us. Associative memory. Seeing something may trigger another memory that helps us solve a problem. Perceptual speed. We can see something and recognize it. And reasoning. So he came up with this list of 7 things. Steinberg split it into 3. He said it's analytical intelligence, creative intelligence, and practical intelligence. So to do practical things, to be creative, and to be analytic or more mathematical. The most famous one, though, the one that most people stick to, is Gardner's multiple intelligences theory. He says there are 7 different types of intelligence in a human. You have language, linguistic intelligence. You have musical intelligence. He puts music as a separate category. We have mathematical, analytical intelligence. We have the spatial intelligence, that's spatial coming up again. Body kinesthetic, control of our bodies. Intrapersonal and interpersonal intelligence. Interpersonal is communication between other people. We can talk to other people and they can talk to us. Intrapersonal is that we can talk to ourselves. We can question ourselves about things. This kind of self-awareness intelligence. And one last one, same thing coming up again. I want you to be looking for themes here. So Spearman says it can be reasoning, association, linguistic, spatial, and pattern identification. So he splits it into 5. But you'll see there's a lot of commonality between all of these different theories. So before we start looking at definitions, I'm going to play a couple of videos. No, I won't play the videos. We'll talk about the definitions. Now, for those of you online, there is a PDF of definitions on Brightspace. That's what I'm giving out now. I'll go through them in class as well. You take one of each of these and pass them around. So we're going to look at, in Hunter and Legg's paper, they give us 10 definitions of intelligence. We're going to look at these 10. And again, you're looking for commonalities so that you can see which things almost every, more than one person says is related to intelligence. Many of these definitions are well known, but they do differ. But there are recurring features. Some are quite explicit, some are quite implicit. So you may have to think a little bit to see some of the themes and commonalities. So let's look at the first definition. Intelligence there is a fundamental faculty, the alteration or the lack of which is the utmost importance to practical life. This faculty is judgment, otherwise called good sense, practical sense, initiative, the faculty of adopting oneself to circumstances. So that's one of the first that's the first definition. Second one, capacity to learn or profit by experience. Third one, ability to adapt oneself adequately to relatively new situations in life. Fourth, a person can possess intelligence insofar as he had learned or can learn to adjust himself to the environment. Number five, intelligence is the ability of an organism to solve new problems. Number six, a global concept that involves an individual's ability to act purposefully, think rationally, and deal with the environment. Individuals differ from one another in their ability to understand complex ideas, to adapt effectively to the environment, to learn from experience, engage in reasoning, overcome obstacles by taking thought. Number eight, the emphasis is on the use of intelligence to achieve success in life. Achieving what you want to attain in your life within a social, cultural context. People have different goals for themselves. So that's number eight. Number nine, the internal environment that shows through at the interface between a person and external environment as a function of cognitive task demands. And the last one, cognitive capacities that enable an individual to adopt and thrive in any environment they find themselves in. Things like memory, retrieval, problem solving, etc. This cluster of abilities that lead to adaptation in a wide range of environments. So, what common themes are there? Give me a common theme, something that crops up multiple times. Yeah. The ability to adapt, definitely. Adaptation. What else? Yeah. Ability to learn, yeah. Adaptation, learning. Processing information. Yeah. Understanding the information, yeah. So processing, understanding. We've missed a big one. Oh, there's a big couple actually. Yeah. Memory and retrieval, yeah. Yeah. Reasoning. You're still missing a couple of them. A couple of big ones. There's one word that crops up over and over again in that. Yeah. Experience and environment. Yes. Environment crops up over and over again. That you can process what's happening around you, basically. So I know we're almost out of time, but let's just have a look. We're just going to finish this off and then we're so there are these 10 definitions. The one that crops up the most is the word environment. The elementary common feature, it's an individual who is interacting with an environment. or a problem or situation. We call this embodiment. You are embodied in an environment. And many people believe that an AI system cannot be intelligent unless it is embodied, unless it is somehow connected to the world, the environment in which it lives. So many of our definitions revolve around environment and embodiment. So putting the AI systems into physical robots is what we're talking about here. Another one that crops up is that an individual must succeed or profit or overcome something, the solving of problems to make something better. Success, profit, which implies an objective or goal. Where have we come across that before in the discussion of philosophy? What term?
Uh,
Yeah? Hmm? No. You remember intentionality? This idea that the chess machine doesn't know it's won at chess, doesn't have a reason to play chess. So one of the definitions of intelligence is that you have a goal, an objective, something you're trying to do. And the last one you all got, learning, adaptation, experience. So when you come across something new situations that you haven't anticipated or seen before, you can learn, you can adapt, you can deal with them, problem solve in those. So if we take those three things together, we should be able to come up with a new definition. And that's what I want you to do kind of now. Write down a new definition and then we're finished. Number 3. Question 3. I know we're a couple of minutes over, but sorry about that. But yeah, just write down a new definition in question 3 based on some of those common themes. Those of you at home do that as well. And then I will show you the kind of definition that people usually. Have you all got a definition? Something? You written something down? Has anyone not finished it? Need? Will someone give me some response? Yeah. Oh, people are thinking about it. My question is, do you feel that your second definition is better? Yes? One person saying yes. Yeah? That you're dealing with some of these universal themes, yeah? Yeah. So have a look at your definition and compare it to this one. This is the one that people normally accept as a general definition of intelligence, but it's still very vague. An agent's ability to achieve goals in a wide range of environments. Hopefully, your second definition came somewhere close to that. Yeah, I don't expect it to be exact, but you got somewhere towards that. All right. So Next class will define AI and then start looking at particular technology. Quickly define AI. Now we know what intelligence is, it's actually quite easy to define AI because it's going to be the same thing, a machine doing these things. Yeah? All right. Okie dokie. I will see you all on Thursday. Thursday we'll talk about we'll talk about definition of AI, and then we'll look at specific AI technologies, what they just drop them on there, what they are.